Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me.
In the vastness of space, the stars flickered faintly, their light distorted by the remains of a cosmic battlefield. Debris from broken warships floated silently, the remnants of humanity's once proud fleet scattered across the void. The final hours of the war were upon them, and humanity was losing. President Alexander Kane stood at the observation window of Sanctuary, the last stronghold of the human race. His face, worn from years of relentless conflict, reflected the exhaustion in his heart. He was a man who had seen everything: victories, losses, the rise and fall of hope. Now, it felt as if he was witnessing the end. Beyond the protective shield of the station, the enemy approached. Thousands of Exquisite ships, an armada so vast it blocked out entire constellations, loomed closer, ready to deliver the final blow. Kane's advisors stood behind him, murmuring about evacuation plans and strategies for a last-ditch defense. But he knew better. There was no escaping this time. Earth had fallen, its cities burned to ash, and humanity's colonies had been crushed under the merciless advance of the Exquisite. The people who had once called themselves conquerors of the stars were now scattered and broken. "We're out of time, Mr. President," a voice interrupted his thoughts. It was General Pierce, his most trusted military commander. Pierce had served beside him since the beginning of the war, through every skirmish, every Pyrrhic victory, and every devastating loss. Now, his face was pale with the knowledge that they had reached the end. Kane didn't turn around. He couldn't. He didn't want Pierce to see the fear in his eyes. "I know," he said quietly. "There's nothing more we can do, is there?" Pierce was silent for a moment. "No, sir. The shield will fail within the hour. Our last defense fleet is down to a handful of ships, and the civilians, there's nowhere left for them to run." Kane clenched his fists at his sides, the weight of humanity's survival pressing on him. How had it come to this? How had they gone from being explorers of the cosmos to this, a species on the verge of extinction? "There's one option left," Kane said after a long pause. His voice was barely above a whisper, but Pierce heard it. The general frowned. "You're not seriously considering?" Kane turned then, his gaze hard. "What choice do we have? The Exquisite won't stop until we're eradicated." "But if I do this, if I become something more," Pierce's expression darkened. "That technology was forbidden for a reason, sir. It's not natural. No one knows what it could do to you." "I know exactly what it will do," Kane replied. "I'll cease to be human. But I'll still exist. I'll still be able to protect them." He looked at the small gathering of advisors, scientists, and military personnel around him. "We've exhausted every other option. This is the last one." In the silence that followed, Dr. Elara Thorne, head of the Federation's Science Division and the one person Kane trusted above all others, stepped forward. "Mr. President, the ancient energy technology you're talking about, it's not a solution, it's a transformation. You'll merge with the cosmic energy itself. Your consciousness may never be the same. You'll be immortal, yes, but at what cost?" Kane locked eyes with her. "The cost is that I won't be myself anymore. But I'll be what humanity needs me to be. An eternal protector." Elara hesitated, searching his face for any sign of doubt. She found none. "And if you lose control?" she asked softly. "If you become something dangerous?" "I won't," Kane said firmly. "I'll remember why I did it. I'll remember who I was." A heavy silence fell over the room. No one spoke. They all knew the truth. There was no guarantee that Kane would retain his humanity once he underwent the transformation. But without it, they were all doomed anyway. Finally, General Pierce nodded grimly. "I'll prepare the fleet for one last stand. We'll buy you the time you need." Kane nodded. "Thank you, General. And thank you all, for standing by me this long." With a final glance at the stars outside, Kane turned and headed for the chamber where the ancient technology had been hidden for decades, locked away out of fear of its power. Now, it was their only hope. The chamber was a relic of a forgotten age, built long before humanity had ventured into space. Massive stone pillars lined the walls, engraved with symbols that glowed faintly in the dim light. In the center of the room stood the energy matrix, a device constructed by an ancient race that had long since vanished from the universe. It was said that they had discovered a way to bind their consciousnesses to the very fabric of the cosmos, granting them immortality in exchange for their mortal forms. Kane approached the matrix with measured steps, feeling the weight of what he was about to do. His heart raced, but he forced himself to stay calm. This was his duty. His final act of service to humanity. Dr. Thorne followed him into the chamber, her expression troubled. "Once you start the process, there's no going back," she reminded him. "I know," Kane replied, not looking at her. He couldn't afford to doubt himself now. Elara hesitated. "I don't like this, Alex. I never have." "I know," he repeated, softer this time. She placed a hand on his arm, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You're not just the president. You're my friend. I don't want to lose you." Kane smiled sadly. "You won't lose me, Elara. I'll still be here. Just, in a different way." He stepped toward the matrix, placing his hands on the cool metal surface. The machine hummed to life, the symbols on the walls glowing brighter. Energy crackled around him, and he could feel the pull of the cosmos as it reached out to him. "Goodbye, Elara," Kane said softly. Before she could respond, the process began. Pain. It was the first thing Kane felt as the energy surged through his body, tearing him apart at the molecular level. Every nerve screamed in agony as his physical form was ripped away, dissolving into the cosmic energy that surrounded him. But even as his body disintegrated, his mind remained. He could still think, still feel, though everything was different now. His consciousness expanded, stretching across the vastness of space. He could feel the pull of the stars, the gravitational forces of black holes, the flow of dark matter between galaxies. The universe itself was alive, a pulsing, throbbing entity, and he was becoming a part of it, but with that connection came danger. The universe was vast and incomprehensible, filled with chaotic forces that threatened to overwhelm him. He felt his mind slipping, losing its sense of identity as he merged with the energy around him. "No!" Kane shouted, though his voice was nothing more than a thought now. He clung to his memories, his sense of self, fighting to retain who he was. The faces of the people he had sworn to protect flashed before him, his wife, his children, the citizens of Earth, the soldiers who had fought and died under his command. He couldn't forget them. He couldn't forget why he had made this sacrifice. The pain receded, replaced by a strange sense of calm. Kane's mind stabilized, and he realized that he had succeeded. He was no longer human, but he was still himself. He could still think, still act, and most importantly, still protect. That he opened his eyes, though he no longer had eyes in the traditional sense, and saw the universe as he had never seen it before. Every star, every planet, every molecule of matter was connected, part of the same cosmic web that now included him. He could feel the Exquitherian fleet approaching, their engines tearing through space as they prepared to launch their final assault on Sanctuary. Kane focused his mind, reaching out with his new abilities. The energy of the universe bent to his will, and he felt the power surge through him. Kane's presence expanded, feeling the universe hum with energy at his command. The Exquitherian fleet, oblivious to the transformation of their human adversary, moved into formation, positioning for a coordinated strike on Sanctuary. He could sense the cold, calculated minds of their commanders as they prepared to extinguish the last human stronghold, but Kane was no longer bound by the limitations of flesh and bone. The power coursing through him was boundless. He reached out mentally, feeling the energy around him, manipulating the gravitational waves that rippled through space. In an instant, he twisted the fabric of the cosmos, bending the path of the Exquitherian ships. One by one, their engines faltered, sending them spinning off course as if an invisible hand had swatted them aside. Inside Sanctuary, the human fleet watched in awe as the alien ships drifted helplessly, their weapons firing into the void without direction. General Pierce's voice crackled over the comms, disbelief evident. What just happened?" Elara Thorne, still standing in the chamber where Kane had transformed, stared at the monitors with wide eyes. She knew what had happened, though it was almost too incredible to believe. Kane had succeeded. He had become something beyond human, a force of pure energy capable of bending the laws of physics to his will. And now, he was fighting back. Kane, now more attuned to the universe than ever, sensed the confusion among the Exquitherians. Their leader, General Vree, issued frantic commands, trying to make sense of the chaos. Kane could almost hear their thoughts, the alien fear creeping in as they realized they were no longer fighting an enemy they understood. He allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Humanity had endured countless losses, but now, at the precipice of extinction, they had an advantage the Exquitherians couldn't comprehend. With a single thought, Kane seized control of the particles surrounding the alien fleet. The energy coiled like a snake, squeezing the ships, twisting metal and breaking apart their weapons systems. He didn't destroy them outright, there was no need. Disabling them was enough to prove that the tides had turned. Pierce's voice returned on the comms, shaky but determined. "All ships, focus fire. Take advantage of the opening. This is our chance." The human fleet rallied, launching a counterattack with renewed vigor. Missiles streaked through space, slamming into the disabled Exquitherian ships. For the first time in years, humanity had the upper hand. And it was all because of Kane's transformation. But Kane was not content to merely disable ships. He knew the Exquitherians wouldn't stop unless they were utterly defeated. He focused his attention on their flagship, the heart of their armada. General Vree, cold and calculating, was the mastermind behind humanity's near destruction. If Vree fell, the rest of the fleet would crumble. Kane surged toward the flagship, his consciousness moving faster than light. He didn't need weapons or ships anymore, he was the weapon. He felt the massive ship's structure, its energy signature, and the life forms inside. Vree's presence was unmistakable, a cold, alien mind fixed on victory. Kane surrounded the ship in a field of pure energy, tightening it slowly, like a noose around a neck. Inside the Exquitherian command deck, Vree snarled in frustration, his alien body trembling as the ship's systems failed one by one. "What is happening? How is this possible?" Kane's presence filled the ship, making the very air hum with energy. For the first time in his life, Vree felt fear. He had never imagined that the humans, those fragile, insignificant beings, could harness such power. "It's over, Vree," Kane's voice echoed through the ship, though he spoke only with his mind. Vree froze, eyes widening as he recognized the voice. You were the human leader." "I was," Kane replied. "But now, I am something more. And you will not destroy my people." Vree lashed out, ordering his crew to fire the last of their weapons. But it was futile. Kane absorbed the energy of the blasts, dissipating them like mist in the wind. With a final surge of power, Kane crushed the flagship's defenses, reducing it to a husk of metal floating aimlessly in space. The Exquitherian fleet, now leaderless, began to scatter. Without Vrea's iron-fisted command, they had no direction, no purpose. Kane watched as the remaining ships fled into the depths of space, their engines flaring in desperation. Humanity had survived the impossible. But even in victory, Kane felt no joy. He turned his attention back to Sanctuary, where the remnants of the human race celebrated their unexpected victory. He could hear the cheers, the disbelief, the relief in every heart. And yet, as much as Kane wanted to share in their triumph, he couldn't. His body was gone, and though his mind remained, it was not the same. He was no longer one of them. Dr. Thorne stood in the chamber, looking up at the empty matrix where Kane had once stood. She felt his presence, even though he was no longer visible. "Alex," she whispered. "Are you still there?" "Yes," Kane's voice echoed gently in her mind. "I'm still here." Tears welled in Alara's eyes, but she wiped them away quickly. "You did it. You saved us." "I did what I had to do," Kane replied. "But I'm not the same, Alara. I can't come back." "I know," she said softly. "But you're still with us. That's what matters." Kane wished he could feel her hand on his arm, the simple human connection he had taken for granted. But that was no longer possible. He was something else now, something beyond human. "Take care of them," Kane said after a long pause. "Humanity still needs leaders. They'll look to you now." Alara nodded, though she knew Kane couldn't see it. "I will." Kane lingered for a moment longer, feeling the connection between him and the people he had sworn to protect. He would always be there, watching from the shadows, guiding when necessary. But he could never be part of their world again. The universe stretched before him, endless and full of possibilities. He could feel the distant stars, the gravitational pull of planets, the dark matter that flowed between galaxies. There were threats lurking in the depths of space, forces that humanity couldn't comprehend. And now, Kane was their guardian, their last line of defense against the unknown. As the years passed, humanity rebuilt. The war with the Exquitherians became a distant memory, a story told to children who had never known the fear of extinction. Statues of Kane were erected in cities across the galaxy, honoring the man who had saved them all. His name became legend, but the truth of what he had become was known only to a few. Alara Thorne kept his secret, passing it down through the generations. She grew old, but Kane did not. He watched as the people he had once known grew older, lived their lives, and eventually passed on. But he remained, ever vigilant, ever present. In the distant reaches of space, new threats emerged, alien empires, cosmic phenomena, and forces that defied understanding. Each time, Kane was there, quietly intervening, ensuring humanity's survival. He moved through the universe like a phantom, his presence felt but never seen, and so, as centuries passed, Kane remained, a silent guardian watching over the stars. He had given up his humanity, but in doing so, he had become something eternal. His will, his purpose, his love for his people, those things never faded. Kane's final thought, as he drifted through the cosmos, was simple and clear: "I am still here."